Hi guys, welcome to the next session in Maven series. So in this session, I'm going to cover the Maven profile concept. So this is the session pending from long time. So many people have already requested me through the email to create the video on the Maven profile. Okay, so here I am. I will do my best to help you understand this concept in a simple way through some practical examples. Okay, so we know Maven is a build automation tool. Okay, so that's why that will be used by everyone in the SDLC, by automation engineers, developers, DevOps engineers, right? So we should know about the Maven profile concept. Okay, so it is very useful and very important for interview point of view as well. So we will see about the what is the Maven profile. Okay, and their use through some examples, through some diagrams, and then we will see how we can create the Maven profile and run the specific Maven profile with some practical examples. Okay, through the Eclipse. Okay, so before looking at the Maven profile concept, let's look at the profile first. Okay, why do we have the profiles in general? Okay, so I will give some examples now. So consider this a very basic example. In a IT company, we have software testing team. Okay, to test the software. So in that team, we can have multiple profiles. Okay, so let's say profile one is for the junior QA. Okay, QA engineer. Then senior QA, we have the second profile, and third profile belongs to the QA lead. Okay, so in general, in a software company, we can have these profiles related to the QA departments: junior QA, senior QA, and QA lead. So these peoples will have different level of access, different levels of permissions they can do. So depending upon their profile, they will be able to do different work. So junior QA will have different set of responsibilities. They can have different access levels and permission levels. Okay, to access some applications or do add or update modification in the code, right? So senior QA will have some more responsibilities, more access levels, and more permissions, right? And QA lead, if you see it, they will have the major responsibilities to solve some major issues, to get the work done from the team. Okay, so they can have multiple access levels and more permission levels. Okay, so depending upon the profile of the user, they will be able to do the different task. Okay, so depending upon the profile, they will be able to have the different permission, different access levels, different responsibilities in the IT company. That's why we create the multiple profiles in the IT company to differentiate between the different peoples. Okay, and we assign the work according to their profile, right? So another basic example, let's say you bought a new laptop. So what I want is that laptop should be able to use by the multiple people. Okay, so there will be some one administrator who will be able to access or do the all the setting and configuration in my laptop, and then I will create different profiles for different users. Okay, so I have 3 users who are going to use the that laptop. Okay, so using the admin, I will create different user profiles. I will create their username and their credential, and using those credentials, this user 1, user 2, and user 3 will be able to log in into the that system. Okay, so depending upon whatever settings, whatever permissions and access level this administrator have provided to this particular user, they will be able to access those applications only. Okay, they can modify or delete anything or update any files depending upon their permission and access level set by the admin. So what kind of things they can access from this laptop, what kind of things they can update or modify, will be completely depending upon the user profile. Okay, so this is another example of the profile. Okay, depending upon the user profile, I can have the multiple users use the same machine, and depending upon their permissions or access level, they can change or add or modify any files from the same laptop. So this is the another example. So we know Maven is a build automation tool. Okay, so we can create the build of our Maven project by using the different configurations and different plugins that we set in the Pom.xml file, right? So whatever configuration you will set in the Pom.xml file, that configuration, that plugins will be used to create the build of your project. So in this diagram, you can see I can use the Maven profile concept to create the different builds for my same project. Okay, so I will have the same project, but if I want to create the build of that project, I can have different configuration set in the pom.xml file. Okay, so let's say this is the build 1.5 that I am going to create with this plugin 1, 2, 3, and these are the version of the plugins. Okay, x.1, y.1, and z.1. So here what I want is I want to create the build 1.5, and these are the configuration it should use while building the project. Okay, while creating the build of my project. So it should use the JDK 1.5 version, and these are the plugins. Let's say plugin 1, 2, 3, and these are the version of the plugins it should use while creating the build of the project. Okay, I want the build 1.8 should be created by using the JDK 1.8 version. Okay, and the same plugins, or there can be different plugins, but their version is different now. Okay, so what I want is I want to create the different builds for the same project. Okay, but while creating the build, what I want is it should use the different configurations for the JDK, for the different plugins and their versions, right? So for this purpose I don't have to maintain a different project or different pom.xml file separately. Okay, so while building Maven project I can create the Maven profile. Okay, so let's say I create a Maven profile 1, so that when I run this Maven profile 1, it will create this build 1.5 and it will use only this configuration. Okay, while building the project, then I will create second profile, second Maven profile, profile 2, and if I run this Maven profile 2, it will create build 1.8. Okay, this is just a name, build 1.8, the idea I have provided to the build, and it will use, these are the plugins, these are the versions, and it will use the JDK 1.8. Okay, so this kind of configuration I will do in the same pom.xml file with the different Maven profiles. Okay, so I hope you will understand that Maven profile concept will help you to create the build of your Maven project by using the single pom.xml file, but we can have different configurations for building your Maven project. Okay, different JDK version, different versions of your dependencies, plugins, right? So that kind of work can easily be done by using the Maven profile concept. Okay, so just create two profiles, okay, profile 1 and profile 2, and set up the configuration in the pom.xml file for those different profile, and run the specific Maven profile. Okay, so when we run the Maven profile 1, it will create this build by using this configuration, and when we run the Maven profile 2, it will create the build with this configuration. Okay, so I will show you this practically as well. I'm just trying to cover this Maven profiles through some diagrams first, okay, so that you will be clear about the Maven profile concept picture. Okay, so if anyone asks you about the Maven profile concept in the interview, you can have these diagrams in your mind, and you can draw those diagrams. You can show why exactly we use the Maven profile, how it is useful in the Maven. So let's look at some example related to our automation. Okay, so let's say in we have the Selenium automation framework designed, and in that we use the different plugins and dependencies, right? So we need to add these plugins and dependencies and their versions, we need to add in the pom.xml file. Okay, so we know that we require compiler plugin to compile our test case, surefire plugin to run our test case, to create the jar of our project we require jar plugin, right? Then for let's say we require different dependencies, testng, Selenium dependency, then other dependencies, apache POI API dependencies. Okay, so you need to mention the dependency name and their version in the pom.xml file. Okay, so in this example what I am going to show you is let's say we have the automation already designed, and we have let's say 100 test cases. Okay, so we need to run that automation on different environments. Okay, so in the IT or software project we can have multiple environments. Okay, so there can be QA environment, there production environment, then we have pre-UAT, UAT environment. Okay, right, or dev environment. So for different type of environment I can have different Maven profiles. Okay, so when I want to run the automation on the test environment, I will create the Maven profile 1, and in that it should use the version of the compiler plugin 3.5.1, then surefire plugin with 2.8 version, jar plugin with 3.0 version, Selenium Java and testng with these versions. So when I am running my automation on the test environment, then it should use this kind of configuration that is set in the pom.xml file to compile, run, create the jar of the file, and these are the version of the dependencies. Okay, for the test environment. Now I have created the Maven profile 2 for running my automation on the production. Okay, so let's say on while running on automation on the production, I am going to use the latest version of all the dependency and plugins. Okay, so for example, let's say compiler plugin latest version 3.8.1, then surefire plugin with this latest version, jar plugin, Selenium Java, testng dependencies. So whatever dependency plugins I have added in the pom.xml file, I am going to use the latest version. Okay, when I am running automation on the production. Okay, so this kind of configuration I have set in the same pom.xml file. Okay, so you can run the automation on the different environment with the different configuration, and your build will be created with the different configuration with this jar plugin. Okay, so whatever configuration you have set for that particular Maven profile will be used to run the automation on the particular environment. Okay, so we will create two builds, one build on the test environment with this configuration and another build on the production with this configuration. Okay, so you just need to maintain two Maven profile. You don't need to maintain the two pom.xml file. Okay, so just create two Maven profiles and run your automation on the different environment easily. So that means using the Maven profiles, I don't have to maintain the separate project when I'm running on the test environment and second project on running on the production. Okay, so everything is same. The same Maven project I will have same test cases, whatever I have added in my automation framework will be there, and only one pom.xml file will be there. Only thing is I have different Maven profiles where I have mentioned about the different configurations. Okay, different versions of the plugins and dependencies for the separate Maven profiles. So in the IT company, in any automation team, we can have different XML files which contain different test cases. Okay, so this sanity XML file will contain the sanity test cases that we used to run on the fresh build. Okay, when we get the fresh build, we run some sanity test cases, 20-30 test cases to see that build is stable or not. Okay, if that build is in a testable condition or not. Okay, if sanity pass, then we run the smoke testing. Okay, in the smoke.xml file we will mention the different smoke test cases, and that we will run. And once smoke is passed, then we'll run the full regression on the in our application. Okay, full coverage automation. Okay, so these are the different levels: sanity, then smoke, and then we'll run the full regression. Okay, so we know for creating our automation framework, we create the Maven project, and in the pom.xml file under the surefire plugin, we need to add the name of the xml file you want to run. Okay, so if you want to run the sanity xml, you need to mention sanity.xml file. Then if you want to run the smoke, then just need to mention the smoke.xml file in the surefire plugin. And for regression, we need to mention this name. Okay, whatever name you have given to your regression xml file, that name you need to mention under the surefire plugin. Okay, so for this purpose, every time when I need to run the different xml file, I will have to go to the pom.xml file and change the xml file name. Okay, if I run the sanity first, okay, I will mention sanity.xml file, and then I will build my own project and it will run the sanity test cases. Again, if I want to run the smoke, again I will have to go to pom.xml file in the surefire plugin, and again I will have to change the name to the smoke.xml file. And again for regression, again I will have to change or update my pom.xml file under the surefire plugin again. So we can simplify this kind of scenario very easily by using the Maven profile concept. Okay, so what I will do, I will create multiple profiles. So let's say I will create Maven profile 1, okay, in which I will mention the regression xml file only. Okay, so in this case also I am going to maintain only one pom.xml file, but in that pom.xml file I will create Maven profile 1 and I will mention the regression xml file. Okay, so when I run the Maven profile 1, it will run the regression test cases. Okay, the full regression on the application. Then I will create Maven profile 2 in the same pom.xml file, and I will give the smoke.xml there. Okay, under the surefire plugin. Okay, so when I run the Maven profile 2, it will run the smoke test cases. And for running the sanity xml sanity test cases, I will create another Maven profile 3. And if I run the Maven profile 3, then it will run the sanity test cases on the application. Okay, so we are going to maintain only one pom.xml file, but by creating the multiple Maven profiles, I can handle or run the specific type of automation, okay, on the application using the specific Maven profile. So I can run full regression or smoke testing or sanity automation as per my requirement. Okay, so you just need to run the specific Maven profile as per your requirement. So this is another example how Maven profile concept can help us in the automation testing. So I hope with these examples, whatever we have seen through the diagrams, you would have got some basic idea about the profile concept, the Maven profile concept, how it is useful and how it can be used. Okay, so I know most of the people are the beginner levels or fresher levels, and they want to learn about the Maven things. So that's why I created the diagrams and explain you about this concept through the diagram first. So now we are going to see how we can implement this kind of scenarios practically through the Eclipse. So I have created this Maven project. Okay, and in this I have just added one simple login test. Here we will open the linkedin.com and I will get the title of the page, and that we will print in the console. That's it. So our concept, Maven profile, everything we need to do in the pom.xml file. Okay, so let's look at the pom.xml file now. So this is the pom.xml file. So here you will see uh, you will have the group ID or artifact ID of the project, version number, and after that these are the dependencies that I am going to use. Okay, Selenium dependency, then test-ng dependency, right? And we will require the WebDriver manager as well. Okay, for opening the browser, different browsers. So this is my default setting. So if I directly run this project as Maven install or Maven test, then it will use this by default configuration for creating, for compiling, for running the test cases, and creating the build. Okay, so this is my default configuration used for every build. Okay, without any profile. So as per this example, we need to have different builds for different environments. Okay, so if I am running on the test environment, I will create this profile 1, and for production I will create this profile 2. Okay, so you will see in the pom.xml file, what you have to do is you need to use this profile stack first. Okay, so this section belongs to the default configuration for the build. Okay, so this will be the default configuration. Different dependencies, whatever you have used, these are the version numbers. Okay, so we need to override all those values if I want to have different builds for different configuration. Okay, so by using the Maven profile, we are going to override these settings. Okay, by using this profile stack. So first add the profile stack. Okay, and you need to use this profile now. Okay, so under this profile stack, you can mention one or more profiles. Okay, so this is my first profile. Okay, this will be for my test environment. So you need to provide the ID to your profile. Okay, so you can provide any meaningful ID here. So this profile belongs to my test environment. Okay, let's say, and under the build we need to add the plugins. Okay, that we know. So build, then plugins. Under plugins we can have multiple plugins. Okay, so this is my first plugin. Okay, this is my first plugin, compiler plugin with version 3.5.1. Then we have surefire plugin with 2.8. Then jar plugin with 3.0.0. Okay, so the same version number, same plugins I have mentioned, whatever we have seen in the diagram. Okay, so for test environment, these are the settings we are going to use. Okay, and after build, we need to mention the dependencies. Okay, so for test environment, I am going to use the 3.1.0 version. Then for test-ng, that is the 6.14.3. Okay, 6.14.3. So everything I have mentioned under the profile. Okay, so first I mentioned the profiles. Under profile, this is my first profile, and this will be my first profile name. Okay, first profile ID, test environment, and whatever setting or configuration I want that this Maven should use to build the project, whatever setting I require, whatever configuration I require, that I have mentioned under this profile. So these are the plugins, their version, and these are the dependency it should use for test environment profile. Okay, so if I build this Maven with the test environment profile, then it should use these plugins and their versions. Okay, then again I have created the profile 2. Okay, so this is my profile 2. Again we need to provide the ID to our profile, that is production, and these are the different plugins. Okay, so only difference here is I have used the different versions of the plugins and different versions of the dependencies. Okay, so I have mentioned the same version number. Okay, whatever you have seen in the diagram. So same I have added here for the production profile. Okay, so this is the profile stack ends here. Under profile stack, you can mention one or more profile, and whatever setting, whatever configuration you need to add, you can add after the ID tag. Okay, so very simple. If I run this Maven project without any profile, then it will use this default setting, default configuration. If I run this Maven project with this profile, test environment, then it will use this configuration. And for second profile, if I run the Maven project, it will create the build with this configuration. So we have the same pom.xml file, but we have mentioned the different profiles so that this same project can be built with the different configuration. Right. So first, let's go and run this project with the default setting. So you just need to run this project as Maven install or Maven test you can use. Okay. So let's use the Maven install. So that should use the default version of the plugin, default the version of the dependency that we have used here. Okay. Okay. So our test case has finished. So let us verify the version number now. So now if you see the compiler plugin, it has used the plugin 3.1.1. Okay, so this is the default version of the compiler plugin. Then for surefire plugin, it has used the default version. okay, 2.12.4, because in the default section we have not mentioned about any plugin and their version. So Maven, it is going to use the default versions whatever available for the compiler plugin and surefire plugin. Okay, so it has not used any version or any plugin version from these profiles. So here we have mentioned about the version 2.8, 3.51. Okay, so those are not used for creating the build for this project. Okay, so that's why we can say that this build has created with the default setting, default configuration without any profile. So now let's create the build with this test environment profile. So for that purpose, you need to activate this profile. Okay, so whatever ID you have provided, you need to activate that profile with that ID. So again, right click on the pom.xml file, or you can right click on the Maven project as well. Go to run as, and here we will provide the Maven command. So if you are running from the command prompt, you need to mention like this Maven, okay, Maven command, then let's say install. This is my goal, Maven install, and then hyphen capital P. So you need to activate the profile. So again, you need to provide the profile ID. Okay, so give the space after P and provide the profile ID. So I am going to activate the first profile, that is test environment, test env. Okay, so you need to run this goal, Maven install hyphen P test environment, the profile ID. So as we are running from the Eclipse itself, you don't need to use this Maven command. Okay, so remove it. Okay, that's it. So click on run. So this time this project will run with the compiler plugin or surefire plugin with the whatever version we have mentioned for this test environment profile. So it should use compiler plugin 3.5.1, 2.8 version of the surefire, then jar plugin with 3.0.0. Okay, so it is downloading some required plugins. So let's verify it. This is the compiler plugin 3.5.1 it has used. Then surefire plugin, you can see 2.8. Okay, so same version of the surefire plugin it has downloaded. Okay, so previously it has used the default 2.12.2. So this time it has used the 2.8, whatever we have mentioned for this test environment profile. Then let's look at the jar plugin now. So that will be available below. Okay, so jar plugin 3.0.0. Okay, 3.0.0. That means whatever build and whatever project we have run, that is run with this configuration, whatever we have provided under this profile 1 test environment. Okay, so this is how you need to define the different profile, and whatever profile you need to run, you need to activate that profile by using the Maven command. Maven, then install or package page or test, and then hyphen P, and just provide the profile ID. Okay, so let me mention that here. So in Maven phaseName hyphen P and profile ID. Okay, so now let's run the profile, that is production profile now. Okay, so this time it should use the versions, compiler version 3.8.1, 3.0.0. So whatever version we have mentioned for the production profile for this compiler plugin and different dependencies, it should use that. Okay, just right click on that again, run as, build. So again I will provide install hyphen P, this time production. Okay, so let's verify first now. So compiler plugin 3.8.0, right? The same version whatever we have mentioned for the production profile, it has used that. Then surefire plugin 3.0.0. Okay, so same, it is also correct. Then jar plugin, you can see 3.2.0, that is also correct. Okay, so this is how you can create the multiple profiles in the same pom.xml file and just provide the different configuration whatever you are required for that environment. Okay, so whatever versions you require for the plugins, whatever versions you require for the different dependencies for creating the different build for the same project. Okay, so you don't require to create the multiple pom.xml file here. You can create one default configuration, okay, without any profile. So that time it will use that default configuration to create the build, and whatever profiles you have mentioned here, when we run a specific profile, then it will use the whatever configuration mentioned in that respected profile for creating the build. So now let's see how we can implement this scenario with the Maven profile. So for that purpose, you will require 3 XML files. So I have created sanity.xml, smoke.xml, and regression.xml. Okay, so in this XML files, I have created 3 tests. To see for if we run the sanity, then it should run the sanity test. Okay, and it will print sanity automation completed in the console. Then for smoke test, again I am going to print this statement, and for regression it should use this test. So whatever test-ng test from this test-ng class I want to run, that I need to mention in the XML file. Okay, so for sanity I want to run this method, sanity test. Right, for smoke I have mentioned about smoke test, and for regression I am going to run this test, regression test from that test-ng class. Okay, so if I want to run a specific test-ng XML file from the Maven pom.xml file, I need to add that configuration in the Surefire plugin, right? So we need to create the 3 profile here, right? So profile 1 belongs to the sanity, and in that profile I am going to run this sanity.xml. Okay, so that you need to provide in the Surefire plugin configuration information. So this is the XML file I want to run. Then I have created profile number 2 with this ID smoke, and with this profile we are going to run the smoke XML file. Okay, so whatever test you have added in the smoke XML, that will run. And in the profile 3, this is belong to the full regression. Okay, so that's why I have mentioned about the regression.xml file. Okay, so in our example we only have one test. In your real-time project you can have the multiple tests, right? So just consider this example. We have 3 profiles now for different automation. For sanity automation we have this sanity.xml. Then for smoke automation we are going to run the smoke.xml. And if I want to run the full regression, then I will have to run the third profile that will run the regression.xml test. Okay, so simply we have created 3 profile here for running the different kinds of automation. Okay, in the same pom.xml file we have added this 3 profile and different configuration. Okay, very simple. So now if I want to run the sanity, I will have to activate the sanity profile, right? So that we can do with this maven command, maven install -p, and this provide the profile ID. So first let's run the sanity. So I will go run as maven build. Let's say test, my phaseName, then -p, and my profile ID is sanity. Okay, test case has completed, and you can see this is the sanity automation completed statement. That means it has run the test from the sanity.xml file. Okay, so we have mentioned sanity.xml file for this profile, and we have activated this profile only, right? So now let's run the second one, the smoke. Again, maven test -p, and I will provide smoke. Now run this profile. Okay, activate and run the smoke.xml. Okay, smoke automation has completed. Now let's run the third profile now, the full regression. So I'll have to mention this profile ID. You run as maven build. This is my profile ID, regression. Okay, regression automation is completed. Okay, so we have successfully run the 3 types of automation without changing anything in the pom.xml file. Just we have activated and run the specific maven profile, okay, related to our type of automation. If you want to see which profile is activated, then you can use this Maven command help active profiles. So let me show you that as well. Go to run as Maven build. Okay, so you can use this command profiles. Then let's say -p. We are going to activate the sanity first. Let's say. So you can see this statement, the following profiles are active, that is sanity. Okay, again I can activate the multiple profiles at the same time. Space -p sanity, then just provide the comma, then provide smoke. This is the another profile to active, comma, then regression. So all the three profiles will be activated at the same time. So it should print all the three values. Okay, so following profiles are active: sanity, smoke, and regression. So this is how you can see which profile is active with this simple command. Okay, help active profiles. So that's all for this session, guys. In this session, we have seen how we can use the Maven profile. So in the Pom.xml file, you need to create the profiles. Okay, so just provide the profile tag first, and under that, you need to provide the profile tag. So you can create here one or more profile. Okay, so just you need to use the different ID for each profile, and under that ID, you can provide the different configuration. That means different plugins, different dependencies, and their versions. Okay, so that information you need to provide under that profile. So you can create multiple profile, and then while running the specific profile, you just need to use the simple Maven command, that is mven space, then provide the phaseName, then space -p, and here provide the profile ID. Okay, let's say mven. So if you are running from the command prompt, if you are running from the Eclipse, you don't need to use the mven. So let's say test or install, then -p, and in our case that is sanity. So still a few more points I will cover in this Maven profile concept, but I will cover that in the next session. So that's all for this session. Thank you.